I'm back. I've put down a drop cloth. I've got all my paint ready to go. So what we're going to do is we're following straight from the Hirst Arts website. And what we're following here is, this is the paint colors he's using. He's using a dark olive drab and a medium khaki. And you put the formula numbers right there for any Walmart. If you're watching from inside the United States and you have a Walmart local, you can go down. And this is the dark olive drab can. And it's a interior flat. It's an accent base 5053. And the custom colors that the tech ran up for me is right there. So, and that matches what Bruce has on his instructions page. And so, and then here he talks about mix up about a cup of paint, which he says should about cover this entire project, and it's going to be 3 parts paint to 1 part water. And so what I did is mixed up the 3 parts paint to 1 part water, and I'm storing them in these Ziploc containers. And that paint is pretty thin because he said it needs to be thin so that it can wash down into the cracks. And then here is our what color is that? That is the medium khaki that we're going to use for our first dry brush. And then this is just your standard craft bottle of apple barrel paint. That's a couple bucks. So the Walmart paint was $8.97 a quart. That is a whole bunch of paint because I hardly made a dent. And then I got a couple. Alright, we'll start with our first piece. We're using the olive drab color, and we're going to get this pretty wet. We got to jam it down because we want to, I'm casting in white, so we want to make sure there's no white showing in between these blocks. So you use a cheap paintbrush, obviously. Don't grab one of your good Vallejo paintbrushes and start trying to do this. So we're just going to jam down in these blocks with the olive drab. Remember to get the sides where the cork is. And this is just straight. I haven't put any sealer on top of these blocks. This is the white that they cast up in. So they'll drink in a lot of paint, so don't be afraid to get them wet. And probably don't be afraid to get your fingers dirty, because that's bound to happen here. Get in there on top of these, and this paint's really thin, so we'll see how, and it's thin so it gets down in those cracks, and what we want to do is pull through these cracks, get any pools of paint that might be in there out. And I'm just scraping the brush back in the barrel. So that is our first piece. All right. Move over to our next piece. If you look real close, you'll probably see it right there in the middle. And I don't know if I can. Little green stuffed skull. I used a product called InstantMold, and probably in between when this stuff is drying, we'll take a look. But I wanted to put some skulls down there, but I went down to my local hobby shop and they didn't have any. They usually carry a bag of resin skull pieces, but they were out, so I didn't want to delay anything. So I was like, well, I think I have some scenic bases on there. Let me see if there's anything I can use on those bases. And lo and behold, I found a base that had 2 really nice skulls on the base. So I used the InstantMold and heated up a cup of water. And when you do that, you drop the the stick in there. And basically, if you played sports that ever required a mouth guard, that's the whole process behind this. You are dropping it in the water, you're waiting 2 minutes for it to get soft, and instead of dunking it in cold water, sticking it into your mouth to let it form on your teeth, you are pressing it onto whatever you want to take an impression of. And after about 5 minutes, it's hard, and I just rolled up some green stuff, and you stick it in those impressions and then just kind of lift them out and just let them dry overnight. And so it was cheap. It's getting the effect that I want. It's kind of breaking up a little bit of that space in there. I thought it was pretty neat. And that was my first time using that InstantMold. I've seen some other people use it before, but that was the first, case where I needed to use something like that. So I'll flip this around. I'm going to get paint all over myself doing this, I can tell. And I got a feeling these blocks may take 1 or 2 coats, to completely cover over. The other one is, the first one we did is starting to set up halfway decent, so I'm liking what I'm seeing there. All right, and our third piece, this is another piece with 2 of those skulls in it. So basically, we're going to work these 3 pieces. So we're going to put the 2 coats on them if they need it. Then we'll dry brush the khaki color on it, and then dry brush some white. And that'll probably be it for this session for this week. But over the course of the week, what I'm doing right now, I will do 50 times over. And with any luck, we should have some really decent progress towards being complete with this project. In the last video, the part 6, the fun stuff video, I kind of teased, the next project, and just to let you know, I have ordered 50 more pounds of Merlin's Magic, and I am excited to get going. So I appreciate you guys taking time out to watch, because it's helping me move right along on this stuff, and I think you'll really like the next project. I'm excited for it, so I'm looking forward to getting that one going. And I also had the good fortune to come into some more Hirst molds. I frequently visit a site called Bartertown, and it's primarily, I'd say a majority of the listings are GW related and Privateer Press related. It's a trade site versus using eBay and paying some pretty high listing and selling fees. That you can go to this site, list your product, pretty much, do you want to trade it, do you want to sell it, and then you go into an agreement with another person, and based off the reputation rating, which is how many successfully completed trades or transactions they've already completed, will determine who ships first, kind of who pays first, etc. Well, I happened to go in there, and lo and behold, somebody was selling off 19 Hirst molds, and 5 of them had already been picked up, so I picked up the other 14. It's some odds and ends, some tower molds, a lot of the fieldstone molds, which I really wanted, so I'm looking forward to getting those. None of those molds have anything to do with the next project, but I will have them in my case, and I'll be pretty excited. So I'm going to let these dry some, and if you come back over here and look at the first one we did, you can start seeing the block starting to set up, and Bruce said it's going to be dark, and yes, this is pretty dark. So I'm going to put a second coat on these, and being that this is not this is not like a Vallejo or Privateer or a GW paint, this is interior house paint, it's going to take a little bit to set up. So I'm going to let this set up. I'm going to put the second coat on, let that set up, and then when we're ready to hit the dry brush stage, I'll be back. while the paint's drying up, I figured I'd take a second and show you the InstantMold I was talking about earlier that I made the skull with. This is around $10 a package, and it comes in a kind of a blister pack like this, and it has six of these sticks. And again, these are those sticks I talked about. It's almost like that mouthpiece material when we were younger, except it's a little bit harder. And so what you're going to do is I took just a measuring cup, like a 2-cup measuring cup, and I put a cup of water in it, and then I stuck it in the microwave under the beverage setting. And before the thing completed, because you need to water at about 170 degrees, I pulled it out right when I started to see bubbles in the measuring cup, and then I dropped this in, and then this sits in it for 2 minutes. And you can see how this is kind of cloudy. Well, as it sits in that product, it'll turn crystal clear. And so what happened is it got done, and then I took it out. Be careful taking it out because it's going to be hot, so you obviously want to stick something in there to grab it with out of the hot water. And at that point, I used my X-Acto knife, and I just cut this into 3 pieces because there was 3 things I was taking a mold of. And the base I was talking about is this base right here. It's a base I have bought, and if you look at those 2 skulls right there, I was like, oh, those would be nice. So you take that piece, and all you do is you just press it onto whatever you want to take an impression of, and you just let it sit there for about 3-4 minutes and harden, because you can see the detail in that right through the plastic. And then when you're done, you pull it off, and there's your impression. And then what you're going to do is take some green stuff, roll it up, and then just stick it in there, or gray stuff, or whatever clay that cures that you're working with, and you're going to put it in there. And I was taking mine out quite a bit because that's pretty deep, so I was able to run, I was able to make, a few of them fairly rapidly. So this is just, where are they? Right there. This is just some of them I made right here. So they're not perfect reproductions, but for sticking in the floor mold for something that looks like a skull or a face, that's easily seeable. I've watched a couple of videos where people have taken D&D miniatures, and let's say you want an arm. Ben's RPG Pile, if you do a search for his videos, he does one where he's running one of the early new 4th edition D&D modules, and he wanted to make a pool of liquid where it was kind of like a chaos pool, basically. And so he was taking this InstantMold, and he would wrap it around one of those D&D miniature arms, and then he would put his green stuff in there and press it out, and he would paint the little piece up because he just wanted the back of a Minotaur. He wanted an arm of the Minotaur. And instead of having to chop up, or, I didn't want to, I want to destroy this base because, I want this base. This base is done by Enigma. It's a scenic base on there, and their bases are just outstanding, so, but I did want that skull, for my project. So this project's for me, so I sat there and just took a quick impression of that. And I'm going to drop 6 or 7 of these inside this whole descent board and things like that. I did buy a package of skeleton parts. So you'll see some backbone vertebrae, and there's a rib cage in there and stuff like that. I did do a quick mold of the backbone vertebrae, and they came out okay. If I'd let something sit in it overnight, it'd probably be pretty good, but I'm not going to use this stuff too much. But in my earlier video, I showed a skeleton splayed across the floor. Well, I may take one of the tiles and actually splay these flat pieces across the floor with the skeleton in it. So just, something that the base game had. And I found these down at the hobby shop. I pulled the tag off it so I forget who did it. But these are relatively inexpensive, just a couple dollars. So, all right, so paint's still drying. I'm going to put that second coat on, and we'll be back in just a little bit.